Good evening and welcome to the Psychic Coffee Shop. I'm Aeson Knight, and of course, with me is the Techie with us, is Techie Joe. How are you, darling?
I'm doing well. How are you this evening?
Oh, doing great, doing great. It's been a very weird, energetical day.
Okay.
All that fun, waking up at 8:30 in the morning, being full of piss and vinegar for 2 days in a row. That thing
Yeah.
called a sun just beaming down on you. It's like,
I
really?
know, like you saw birds and I think you
Yeah,
even have dogwood on your desk and
I do have little dogwood on my desk.
yeah.
He's so pretty.
Hee hee. So
Mm,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so the non-24s kicked in. Yeah,
Yeah, the 924 is kicked in with a real big load of ADHD to go with it.
but it's working. It's working.
It
It's
is, it
actually been a good
is.
work period.
It's been a super work period. It really has. And, things have been going well there.
Uh-huh.
So that's good. Um,
Yes.
we'll be balancing all that out and figuring it out because I don't know. I've done a test, but I'm waiting for feedback from, you and mom.
Okay.
Um, because it's weird. It's like it has to be corroborated.
Okay. We're corroborating.
Yeah. It's not like a, yep, I do that. Yep, I have time blindness. Yep, I lose my freaking keys all the time.
And your wallet. And y'all should see him leave the house. It is a 5-act play. There's an intermission. I've been known to just serve wine.
You know,
It's a process. It's a process, is
well,
what
yeah, but like, natural adaptations. I have my planners. They have everything in them, and I go from task to task to task.
Mhm.
But where I've been waking up in the mornings, I'm sitting here having like, what do I do, George? What do I do?
Well, and you are kind of out of your element because as a
Uh-huh.
night shifter, you
Yeah,
generally aren't awake in the mornings except to
yeah,
be on your way to bed.
yeah,
And so sitting there at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm sure it is kind of this moment of what am I doing? What is
yeah.
this? What do I do with my day?
Mhm.
Do I go to bed? Do I wake up? Do I go to the gym? Do I cook? Do I clean? Do I
Yeah,
work? What do I do?
right. Where do I begin? How do I want, So we'll see how long this works.
Yeah.
Because we did go through an eclipse and a full moon eclipse in Libra. Aries, the communication house, has been danced into my planetary arrangement. And then we had, and this is a key effect of this, and you're going to see astrology in action. We go to Baltimore, and a key bridge just collapsed. It looks like it was blasted off the planet, but no, a boat hit it.
Yeah, that's the damage that can be done with a little hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the ship suffered a total blackout before the collision with bridge, Pilot Association official says.
Mm-hmm.
The pilot of the ship that crashed into the Baltimore Bridge Tuesday did, quote, everything that he could have done to slow the ship and keep it from drifting toward the bridge, said Clay Diamond, executive director and general counsel of the American Pilots Association. Diamond has been in close communication with the Association of Maryland Pilots over what unfolded on the Dolly cargo ship in the moments leading up to the crash. Quote, just minutes before the bridge, there was a total blackout of the ship, meaning the ship lost engine power and electrical power. It was a complete blackout, Diamond told CNN.
Right.
At that point, according to Diamond, the pilot did everything that he could have done to both slow the ship down and keep it from drifting to the right toward the bridge. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. What I don't get is it's like looking at this, you would think that there would be like this is the pillar of a bridge, of a major bridge, And we see them physically, like when we go down to the gorge, those things are huge, like house-sized concrete pillars.
Mm-hmm. Well, and steel, I'm sure.
And steel.
Yeah, like, but it's a. Here's the thing: bridges are these very codependent structures.
Mm-hmm.
Like every piece of a bridge is important.
Right.
Like, and if nowhere else in the world, West Virginia knows this well, with the Silver Bridge collapse,
Right.
way back when, that, because that was an I-beam bridge or an
Right.
I forget what it's called exactly,
Yeah.
but it was literally that bridge collapsed then, because one crack broke a link,
Right.
and the rest of the structure couldn't support the weight of the bridge, and so piece by piece, kaboom.
Yeah,
It
Mothman.
goes down like Tinker Toys.
Did he go to Baltimore? Is my question.
Do what now?
Was Mothman seen in Baltimore?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
He was linked in Chicago when a
Okay.
bridge collapsed there. I'm wondering if he was sighted in Baltimore. You crypto fans, get out there and research that. Bring it back to us.
Well, cryptid fans.
Yes.
But yes, so there is that aspect of it. However, like just with bridges in general, they're very delicate structures for what they do.
Right.
So and your most vital component is going to be the supports.
Right.
And this is why we spend so much effort inspecting bridges and ensuring that the structures originally thought to be, indestructible or near so. Why we spend so much effort inspecting them is because once you get to a critical fail point, the whole thing goes boom.
Right.
Like it will fall down. Supports especially are vitally important. So when you lose those, no matter how strong the rest of the structure is, all of that weight is getting tensioned across the bridge. It will start to disintegrate rapidly.
Yeah.
Which is what we saw here.
Yeah, in moments, like minutes. 6 people presumed dead. What I find more concerning is there's now granted, this has shut down the port of Baltimore. Okay. Most places are switching directions and going to Norfolk. Now, Norfolk is not a big shipping thing. It is where our U.S. Navy is. It's, I think, 2.5 hours by car. So I would say probably another 2 hours by port. But it was designed during World War II. It's where the ships are built for the Navy. This is going to be very complicated because you're going to have to reactivate sections of that port that haven't been used since the 50s.
The upside is, with this many years of generating ports and having functional ports, we do have some failover and diversion capability. Which is what's allowing this to happen. But it is important for people to realize that Port of Baltimore is a very, very important shipping port. But it does mean there will be delays. And given this is not a commonly used port, currently, diverting traffic to it and trying to make that function as a full functional port is going to be interesting. So it's going to require a lot of patience for everyone.
Well,
Uh,
that and it's going to be a logistical nightmare. I mean, because think about it. They use massive cranes. My uncle used to drive, um, was the runner of the largest crane on the eastern coast, and it was at Norfolk. But that was in the 80s.
mhm.
So they're going to have to quickly build infrastructure, move infrastructure, whatever, to get
Mhm.
it moving there. So, guys, expect some shortages on goods that aren't
Well,
local produced.
I don't want to raise alarm and send people into a panic by saying shortages just yet. But I will definitely say there's going to be delays.
Right. You
Like
know,
there's
White House is already saying it.
Oh, are they actually
Yeah.
calling it shortages?
They're calling it shortages and problems with supply chains.
Oh, well, that's a life choice one can make. Sorry, after the Bernini, I'm a little loath to
Mhm.
immediately throw the shortage word around because
Right.
the minute we heard that during that, what
Right.
we immediately reflexively saw
Right.
was this like tremendous rush out
Right.
to stock up while you can, and it's like that created more issues
Yes.
than there would have been.
Right.
Because for most shortage situations, if you can keep functionally using or even slightly
Right.
reduce your usage
Right.
of affected products and continue buying at the rates you would normally
Right.
buy, most shortages won't really affect you. But
Hmm.
the minute you start seeing large groups of people
Right.
rush to the store to buy up affected products,
Right.
then you turn around and you magnify the effect.
Right.
Because now there's been an overconsumption
Right.
to go with a delay.
Right.
So now it's basically a train wreck at that point.
Right.
Is one problem slams into another problem that creates another problem that creates another problem,
Right.
and it ripples into, no, we seriously have a shortage,
Right.
like a severe one.
Right.
While some consumers have a glut
Hmm.
of unused product
Right.
that could have stayed on the shelves, been bought by other consumers reasonably.
Right.
So,
And this is very concerning. We are in March.
oh
This is
yeah.
when the farms get moving.
Mm-hmm.
Most of that equipment's built in Germany and
Mm-hmm.
is being shipped through Baltimore. Now it's being shipped through Norfolk.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you've ordered a tractor or a
It may
combine,
not get there.
it may be a little slow getting there.
Yeah.
But that may be some of the upside.
Right.
Is that, when you're dealing more business to business, which is what that's going to end up being, is
Right.
agricultural business being affected, it may not blow up as badly.
You're not
Um,
seeing the ripple.
okay.
The tractor doesn't get in. The seeds don't get planted on time. The crops don't get in. The fresh vegetables and grains go up.
Mhm. Well, it was more so my hope that,
Right.
some of this is going to be replacement equipment
Right.
and not totally new equipment.
Right.
Um, so in the instances in which this was, a hopeful arrival for the beginning of planting season,
Right.
most situations there should hopefully be equipment that they can continue to use.
Right.
So it's inconvenient, it's unfortunate,
Hmm.
but it's not necessarily impossible.
Right.
That if
Yeah.
you can, do some networking,
Hmm.
and so to speak, horse trading,
Hmm.
and put a little tender loving care and some duct tape, spit, and a prayer on some older equipment, there's a potential that there's a little delay. It was a horrible planning season. It'll go down in history. But it wasn't like dire.
Hopefully, like, what is it, John Deere? Yeah, John Deere. They were having the problem out of their Cobot, their software last year has been fixed.
I don't know. Now, John Deere is an interesting company in and of itself, and the fact that you don't own your tractor, John Deere does.
Yep.
And they can decide when or if you can use it.
Right.
They are so tied up in right to repair, it's ridiculous.
Right.
But I think that gets away from the story a little bit, because there's some other aspects of it. Is they have divers from various state and local agencies that have been brought in to help with the search. Meanwhile, they're currently facing conditions where it's not possible to search.
Right.
Which currently they have information on 6 missing individuals, according to the Coast Guard. But it's basically become dangerous for first responders and divers to be in the water.
Right.
So, and they're quickly moving from a search and rescue operation to basically recovery.
Right.
So, which is unfortunate for the families that are affected. There's also some concerns there may have been more than 6 people that are missing. So this is going to be a very sad experience.
Right, and a very charged experience. And they're not even, and here's the thing, we don't know who all was on that ship. Point blank, looking at the pictures, I can't even tell what flag the ship was flying.
Let's see. I was curious if because what we're working from is the CNN live update story, which does make it a little hard. It's tons of information, but it does make it a little harder to quickly locate information.
Right.
Let's see. So I'm trying to look through.
Yeah, like the ship, the contractor ship, the container ship Delay, it's not saying what ship it flew under. So we could even be having problems trying to locate their manifest of people. Ooh, Singaporean.
Okay.
So that's going to be trouble.
So yeah, this was a not a small ship, by the way.
No.
Just I'm finding some information on that. In addition, so let's see. Oh. It was involved in at least one prior accident when it collided with a shipping pier in Belgium. That 2016 incident occurred as the Dolly was leaving port in Antwerp and struck a loading pier made of stone, causing damage to the ship's stern, according to VesselFinder.com, a site that tracks ships across the world. An investigation determined a mistake made by the ship's master and pilot was to blame. So I don't know if that's the same pilot. So yeah, The Dolly was chartered by Maersk, Maersk, the same company chartering it during the Baltimore Harbor incident.
Right.
The 9-year-old container ship.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. Officials discovered a deficiency with its propulsion and auxiliary machinery, gauges, thermometers, etc. According to the Tokyo MOU, an intergovernmental maritime authority in the Asia-Pacific region.
Right.
But it wasn't serious enough to remove it from service. Yeah, so it is a Singapore flagged vessel.
Right.
And yeah, in a video posted to social media, lights on the Dolly shut off, then turned back on, then shut off again before the ship struck a support pier on the bridge. Numerous cargo and cruise ships have lost power over the years. The International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea requires all international vessels to have 2 independent sources of electricity, both of which should be able to maintain the ship's seaworthiness on their own, according to a safety study about power failures on ships, citing the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea. So the Dolly's emergency generator was likely responsible for the lights coming back on after the initial blackout.
Mm-hmm.
There was still some steerage left when they initially lost power, he said. We've been told the ship never recovered propulsion. The emergency generator is a diesel itself. So if you light off the generator, that's going to put off a puff of exhaust. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ship never did regain its engine power.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a 984-foot container vessel built in 2015 by Hyundai Heavy Industries in South Korea, with a cruising speed of about 22 knots, roughly 25 miles per hour. It has traveled the world carrying goods from port to port. Constructed of high-strength steel, has 1 engine and 1 propeller. Ironically, Dolly arrived in Baltimore on Sunday from the port of Norfolk in Virginia. Before that, it had been in New York and come through the Panama Canal.
Right.
And remains at the scene.
Yeah.
Oh, it's owned by the Singapore-based Grace Ocean Pte. Limited, but managed by Synergy Marine Group, also based in Singapore, and was carrying Maersk customers' cargo, according to a statement from the shipping company. I mean, how common is that? That's a lot of companies involved.
Yeah.
I mean, I know logistics gets weird, but that just seems a little heavy. It's like the contract. It's like the company contracts a contractor who contracts a company.
Right. And they all are flying under, I find it interesting they're flying under Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Because that makes me question if maybe they were skirting some regulations.
Well, Maersk is a shipping solutions company.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out. It's a Danish shipping and logistics company founded in 1904. Headquartered in Copenhagen, Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like, and again, so they're a logistics company. So they've been contracted for logistics. Mm-hmm. They've contracted this out to another company that contracts the ship.
Right.
It's like, God, there's a lot of people involved.
Right.
Again, it's logistics and it can get like that, and I get it.
Right.
To a degree, but it's like,
Right.
That's a lot of things going on.
Right.
Like, how many different companies have to be involved? I
Right.
mean, it's not cheap to build a ship. It's certainly not cheap to operate one. So I get it. But it's like, how many investment companies does it take to move a package around the world?
And as many hands as possible.
It seems so.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if we're then going to find out that the intermediary company that operates the ship contracts out all of the employees.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this is not a standard crew that repetitively does this. It's just kind of luck of the draw who showed up, like travel nursing.
Right. And that will be interesting. Hopefully, we get a full, detailed investigation on this and more of a view of whose flags they're flying. Because this is a Denmark owned company. Why are they flying a Singapore ship?
I mean, I think it's one of those things. Welcome to the global economy and how we're all working together.
Well, I understand that. But, each country has different standards for maritime.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be like me taking the car to Virginia, registering it in Virginia, and driving Virginia plates because it fits Virginia better because, I don't know, they don't have an inspection system down there.
Well, actually, right now, most people that want their Virginia vehicle licenses because Virginia doesn't have insurance requirements.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that may be part of it, though it may not necessarily be as intentional. I get the feeling this may be a bid system
Mm-hmm.
in which basically these jobs go out
Right.
and go to the lowest bidder.
Right.
And just whoever will take it and bids the least to do it.
Right.
Would be my theory. Like, a lot
Right.
of logistics is working that way. Because if you look at a company like Amazon,
Right.
a lot of their logistics is just lowest bidder.
Right.
Who's the cheapest place to ship the package?
Right.
And as long as they can do it within, 72 hours, who cares?
Right.
Get it to the customer doorstep in 72 hours for the least amount of money possible.
Right.
Like, that's your Prime membership. That's what you paid for.
Right.
For Amazon to find the cheapest logistics company, UPS, FedEx, USPS, DHL, whatever it is, to drop it on your doorstep in the least amount of time for the least amount of money.
Right.
Now, whether that comes all in one piece or they can find your address or,
Right. Interesting. Ships registered under a flag of the converse is often to reduce operating costs and avoid restrictions of the owner's country. To achieve that, ship owners find a country with open registry or a country that allows ships owned by foreign firms to be registered.
Mm-hmm. Like, again, it can do anything from change your requirements for like, any kind of expenses,
Right.
or insurance or liabilities or
Mm-hmm.
like, the list is long and varied, and it can make a big difference in what you can bid a job for.
Right.
Sometimes we see that even with like state to state commerce.
Right.
And we do it ourselves. Like, hi, we live in West Virginia. We have a whole set of laws about border counties.
Right.
Just because we were losing so much commerce to surrounding states.
Right.
Because of lower tax rates, lower prices, lower requirements, whatever, or just the sheer number of vehicles registered in Virginia, driven on West Virginia roads,
Right.
because there are people here who will find anyone
Right.
to use as an address to register a vehicle at,
Right.
and then operate it on West Virginia roads without the insurance requirement.
Right.
Which, by the way, that's about to change. That was in the news this week.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia is implementing mandatory insurance.
Yay.
Yeah, finally. Like, yay for that.
Right.
Like, I couldn't believe there was. I didn't understand that was the reason until I read that article, and I was like, that's why everyone wants a flipping plate in Virginia.
Right.
Like, I knew there were people that did it. I just never understood why it was such a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, you don't have an insurance requirement. Okay, that's
Right.
interesting.
Right.
Like,
You know, you don't have an insurance requirement, so therefore the insurance is cheaper. If you carry insurance, if you're dumb not to carry insurance, I don't know. I can't help you with that. You know, that you need to see a doctor for.
well, there's some people that based on their vehicle, it may not be worth necessarily insuring on their behalf.
Right.
Well, you pick up a car for a couple $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a major loss if you total it, except then
Right.
you have the problem of, but if you hit someone else,
Right.
someone else is going to have that hit their insurance.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Which sucks.
Yes.
Yeah. That's why we have uninsured motorist coverage.
Yes. And we add extra to it.
And it costs us more. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just the idea that because there's also people who will register a vehicle in the state of West Virginia and drive it around, and they got one inspection sticker when they bought it.
Mm-hmm.
They had to.
Right.
And then after that, the insurance lapse, the vehicle registrations in question marks, the plates are expired.
Right.
They have no insurance.
Right.
They have no money.
Right.
And they're basically freewheeling around on the interstate.
Mm-hmm.
So good luck if you get hit by them.
Right.
Because it'll cost you. Your premium will go up.
Yes, it will. All right, so let's move over to the backup article.
All righty. Didn't like that first one.
It's the wrong system.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to that one. Oh, no, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Mercury retrograde, and it's kind of interesting that the Baltimore Bridge thing happens as we're moving towards this retrograde.
Right.
Because it's kind of logistics and communications are in many ways the same thing.
Right.
Like it was always interesting to me that if you look at why like IT has the language that it does, it's because it's principled off of logistics. And so now the idea of shipping a package is much how we talk about most communications.
Right.
That we have on a daily basis are built around this like very old idea of moving a product from one place to another, and all the hands that have to touch it to make that possible. Is also how the internet works. It's how email works. It's how your messenger works. This is the backbone of the internet. It is laid out logically in this whole idea of very akin with some different wording of like shipping lanes and ports and
right.
Yeah. So pardon?
The Navy.
Yes. Navies are useful. But then we go into, or get ready to go into Mercury in retrograde, which we know is a communications nightmare.
Right.
But I think sometimes it also has to, well, and while we say the words causes calamities in travel,
Mm-hmm.
if Port of Baltimore isn't a calamity in travel, I don't know what it is.
Right.
But it really, we have to also look at it as the calamity of logistics.
Right.
Because fundamentally, for companies, we're a product that gets moved.
Mm-hmm.
Like they sell us travel, that's what we
Right.
think we're buying, but really it's logistics. Take
Right.
this 10 box, shove people in it,
Right.
move them from here to here, do it for a price.
And do it quickly.
Yeah, and again, we're moving through nodes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like really, where are you that you have a direct flight to California?
Right.
Like New York, that's probably the only place you can board one plane and
Right.
fly direct. Has Joe fashioned a Faraday cage yet? Not yet. This is one of those fun periods where Joe makes money, and I'll say that unashamedly,
Mm-hmm.
because this all hits me early. So
Mm-hmm.
this is why I shouldn't be in charge of a ship right now.
Right.
Um, sorry, I
Well,
don't mean
not
to
only
like
that, but this is something Joe didn't believe in.
well, but yeah, for my equipment, is what Shannon was asking about.
Honey, that's
Um,
Teflon with hematite, I promise you.
no, at this point, like it tends to hit early. And I'll go through my things and I'll deal with my issues and okay, cool. I tend to get, this over with as it starts to hit everyone else
Right.
and can take that on.
Mm-hmm. As he freezes, this is quite common. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, welcome back.
Welcome back. But no, so it hits kind of early, and then we get all that straightened out, and then we move into Mercury in retrograde for everyone else, and my phone rings a lot.
Yeah, but let's go back to this because I introduced this concept to you,
Hmm.
and you thought it was bull. You're like, yeah, whatever. Donut delays, two dips. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, well, it's not that I didn't. I mean, granted, it's IT. We kind of get used to the it's hit or miss.
Right.
Like this is like I can't. Not that I would if I could. I can't make your system go down.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not Microsoft. I'm not Apple. I don't obsolete anything. I don't cause your system to crash.
Right.
Frankly, if it were up to me, everyone would have a lovely experience and you'd never call me and I would do something else with my life. But here I am. This is what I do. I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of okay at it. Um,
You're excellent at it.
like I don't want to be like all crazy bragging, but like I'm
That's my
okay.
job.
So he says excellent. But no, so it happens. Like I go through periods, like, and it does, where the phone rings relentlessly,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's quiet for a while, and then the phone rings relentlessly, and then it's quiet for a while. And what we did map out is that it very much corresponds
Mm-hmm.
to Mercury in retrograde, and we've gotten adjusted to the concept that we can plot when I'm going to make money.
Mm-hmm. I can sit here with the chart and go, money, money, money from April 1st to April 35th. Well, that would be May 5th. I ain't planning for him to be anything but a techie boy.
You'd be the full-time Aeson Wrangler instead of travel Aeson Wrangler. I'm not touching that. Like, Brenda, can I just explain? I do not have ducks in a row. Okay, I have squirrels at a rave, and they all have ADHD, and there's bright flashing lights. So what I'm trying to say
And
is there's no
cookies.
wrangling. There's no wrangling. It's just me with a whip and a chair hoping to make it through the day.
Yes.
Like that's where I'm at in my life.
Right.
But
So-
no, we do see the repeated patterns. I am starting to notice something, and I wonder if she has noticed it too. Because much like I have the early effect,
Mhm.
I'm starting to notice that it happens to Tracy.
It does. It does.
She's on the early side of it.
Well, and she's a medium.
Well, there you go. But no, she's because I'm pretty sure this is second or third time that just ahead of a Mercury in retrograde.
Mm-hmm.
She has had a panic related to something went down.
Right. But no, I
Um,
wonder if she. Well, one, she's a medium, so I really need to recommend that all her devices be stored with amethyst and hematite.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Just buy all the amethyst and hematite that you can, fill a drawer with it, and that's where
Yes.
your stuff lays.
Exactly.
Like
On
just
top.
create little cutouts for like your laptop and your cell phone and like
Mhm.
anything you want to work.
Right.
So, there's that. But no, so if you've been trying to send her a featured reader, we will let you know that that is back up.
Mm-hmm.
She is accepting new featured readers.
Right.
And that was one of the most notoriously annoying things about WordPress
Mm-hmm.
that I had to fix this morning.
Right.
And it was one of those you try all the things and then you finally figure out it's that stupid glitch.
Right.
So we've worked around it. Featured readers will be coming to you soon. She is thrilled. If you've been trying to post one and just hadn't gotten a chance to let her know it wasn't working, please resubmit.
Yes. All right. So, lovely events in spring. We have 2 eclipses, which is quite common. They're just really close together. And we have Mercury in retrograde. Cosmic events will last approximately 3.5 weeks from April 1st to April 25th, causing communication problems, calamities in travel, and technical issues.
Yep. Hi.
Hi.
I'm here for the last one.
Yep. Now, remember the last Mercury in retrograde ended New Year's Day of 2024, disturbed the impetus of New Year's resolutions and goals. However, it's time we experience it entirely, which means that we could reconnect with past love interest, face scheduling issues, find that miscommunications may escalate to minor or major arguments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, important dates to remember. Get your calendars out, grab that highlighter. March 18th, Mercury began to slow down and it entered its pre-retrograde shadow, setting the story for retrograde. April 1st, Mercury goes retrograde officially. April 8th is the total solar occurrence, aligning with Mercury in retrograde, creating misunderstandings and a need for self-reflection. So April 8th, I probably will shut up.
I just think it's horrible though that it starts on April Fool's Day. Like,
I know, right? All right, then.
Kicking us while we're down, Mercury in retrograde. You're kicking us while we're down.
Right. So Mercury is in the cosmos, meaning it will be in the heart of the sun, therefore, and has on the 11th, and has a lot of power to make plans for the future. It's the best day of Mercury in retrograde too. Set out your goals. That's where you're going to do your reflection. That's where you're going to make sure everything's online. Whatever you want. If you're doing success magic, make a note. April the 11th. April 15th, Mercury and the Centurion Chiron connect, offering us time to heal. This may be when exes are appearing. This will be when old loves appear. This is when people that have had wars going on suddenly want to fix them. That's April 15th. It's also tax day.
Yes.
Yes.
So file your taxes early.
Yeah.
Like start early. Start early. Don't wait till the 15th this year.
Yeah. All right. April 25th, Mercury retrograde ends and enters a retro shadow degree to clear up any mishaps. Basically, he's picking up his toys, cleaning up his messes that has been part of our lives for the past few weeks. May 13th, Mercury leaves its post-retro zone, ending the planetary moonwalk.
So what I've always found interesting with retrogrades is they're basically migraines.
Right.
You have a pre-dome, the event, and a post-dome.
Right.
So it's exactly the setup of a migraine. Like if you understand migraines, you know that like there's the period of intensity, but on either side of it was the point where you knew you were going to get a migraine, and then as the migraine leaves and you start to return to normal.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not just the event to worry about, it's the other sides of it.
They may not be in my mailing. These dates will be going up right this moment.
Awesome.
To the Patreon.
Yay!
Like, I lovely create posts for the Patreon when I get to see that there's something you're interested in.
Absolutely. So big advice during this period is double check yourself before you wreck yourself.
There.
Reread your emails. Make sure you're saying what you thought you said to who you think you're saying it to, and not other people. Like, don't reply all. Please watch out for reply all.
Right. Especially if you're going to get snarky.
Yeah. Like, and that might be also one of the bigger tips of a Mercury in retrograde is if you are prone to speaking your mind and doing so without deference, this is a really good time to like put a rubber band on your wrist, and every time you think you're going to open your mouth, slap it against yourself.
Right.
And go, we don't do that.
Right.
Not today. Not today. Because it is like some of the worst situations start over someone sad without kindness.
Right.
The truth, but in a way that created far more hurt feelings than if they had just said.
Right.
A little bit more kindly what they need to say.
Right.
So you use a little deference to who you're talking to. Be gentle.
Right.
Like,
focus yourself.
Focus on the goal. Focus on the goal.
Right.
Not on the feeling. Focus on the goal.
Right. Right. So that is up in the Patreon. Go look at it afterwards. If you're not part of the Patreon, you may want to go sign in and become a Patreon.
Yes, $1 a month. Dude, we
dropped you all kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Exclusive content. Like there was a blog entry posted.
Like you gotta argue with me right now. He just dropped a list of dates that could change your life.
Right.
That if you know what's going on,
right,
you can plan around them. You can mark your calendars. You can be aware and make good choices.
Right.
And understand why the people around you are losing their shit.
Right. And then you can choose to help, Or you can choose to pop popcorn.
Well, or if I were a negative person,
Mm-hmm.
I might point out sometimes you can use these things to your advantage because this is also a period in which people are
Right.
vulnerable.
Right.
And a few words to tip someone in the wrong direction could be a big benefit.
Exactly.
Just saying. Just saying.
Just saying. But
I wouldn't do it.
We're not that petty. I like the long game, not a short fuse. Just saying. Just saying.
Well, but it is one of those cat on a shelf moments of
Right.
You can knock some people out of your way real quick.
Right.
Again, I don't advocate it. I'm just saying some people do it.
Right.
Like, I have seen it. I've had it done to me. I've had those moments where I'm just sitting there like, you've got to be kidding me.
Mm-hmm.
But no truer words than have ever been said than sometimes it just takes the right word in the right place at the right time.
Right.
Now, if you want to do good for the world, you try to be sympathetic, understanding, and make sure not to knock people off shelves. Like, don't be the universe cat.
Yeah. You can also sign up for my email list. You get great content there too.
We do.
Right. So the British Museum is in the mood to sue somebody.
Why, British Museum? Seriously?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the British Museum went to court Tuesday against a former curator alleged to have stolen hundreds of artifacts from its collections and offered them for sale online. Pause. Let's pause right there. Do we understand most of the things in the British Museum were stolen from other cultures and put into the British Museum? Like, do we all understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm not the only one laughing at the irony.
Right.
So the museum is suing Peter Higgs, who was fired in July 2023 after more than 1,800 items were discovered to be missing. Lawyers for the museum say Higgs abused his position of trust to steal ancient gems, gold jewelry, and other pieces from the storerooms over the course of a decade. High Court Judge Heather Williams ordered Higgs to list or return any items in his possession within 4 weeks. She also ordered the disclosure of his eBay and PayPal records. The museum says it has recovered 356 of the missing items so far and hopes to get more back. The items that have been stolen from the museum are of cultural and historical significance, museum lawyer Daniel Burgess said in written legal arguments. Oh, I'm sure they are. Burgess said the defendant tried to cover his tracks by using fake names, creating false documents, manipulating the museum's records, and selling artifacts at less than their value. Higgs, who worked in the museum's Greece and Roman department for more than 2 decades, denies the allegations and intends to dispute the museum's legal claim. He did not attend Tuesday's hearing due to poor health, lawyers said. A separate police investigation into the case is ongoing, and Higgs has not been charged with a crime. Museum director Hartwig Fisher resigned after the loss of the items was revealed in August, apologizing for failing to take seriously enough a warning from an art historian that artifacts from its collection were being sold on eBay. Chairman of Trustees George Osborne has acknowledged that the reputation of the 265-year-old institution has been damaged by the episode. I again want to reiterate, we're all aware that many artifacts in British museums are stolen from other cultures.
Well, and I get that and I understand that, but on the other side of that, this is what annoys me.
Like the British looted and plundered the world.
Not the only country to do so, I might point out.
Not the only country to do it, but it just seems ironic to me that you're surprised someone stole from the museum.
Well, it's not that I'm surprised, but I'm trying to think here, okay?
Yeah.
I notice if someone takes my pens or if a spoon is out of place in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
How do you not notice gold jewelry valued at more than you get paid a year has gone missing from the museum?
I think it's when you start talking, and this may be one of those incidents where it's not on display.
Mm-hmm.
Problem one, we're not popping the case and being like, would you like a necklace?
Mm-hmm.
Many museums have collections that are not on display.
Right.
They're part of a larger, so to speak, hoard.
Right.
That they maintain, that are kept in storage, that
Right.
literally like a Costco or Sam's Club approach of giant warehouse shelving,
Mm-hmm.
in which these items are just kept in storage.
Right.
They're cataloged, they exist. They may be damaged, they may not have like display quality, they may not have been restored yet, they may be just too much to display, or part of a future exhibit idea that will collect more items and then we'll make a display out of that. So many museums, like the big pretty show part, is a very fractional portion of the total catalog of what a museum has. Like it may only be 10, 20, 30% of what they possess.
Right.
And in a warehouse is everything else. And there are some artifacts that it's impossible to display, because the act of display would harm them. They have to be temperature controlled. They have to be maintained very carefully.
Right.
And the environmental conditions of museum display would actually cause them irreparable harm.
Right. But, you know, one of the things that they're pointing out here, and is which he stole, is the Greek Heritage Society has been storing their artifacts at the British Museum for safety and security, because they cannot maintain the items in the condition they need to be in Greece.
Mm-hmm. And that also happens as well, and it's kind of an interesting realization that some museums act more like a bank deposit vault.
Right.
Because they can and do offer security, they can and do offer climate control and humidity control and temperature and light and so which is one part of it, but so there's that aspect as well, as if this is part of a collection that isn't being displayed but is only being stored, either until it can find a home or whatever. There can be a massive number of items that no one's touched in years or decades. That, you know, they were photographed, they were cataloged, they were described, they were recorded. And then, as Brenda says, they have items stored that you don't even that they don't even remember having.
Right.
And sometimes it's because they've been mislabeled or miscategorized or cataloged,
or hidden away from view.
Yeah, and some are intentionally lost.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, which is a weird theory. But sometimes things are hidden for safety.
Right.
So and especially when you get around that century mark, you start entering an important part of history.
Right.
Where we were intentionally trying to lose things. Because being lost to obscurity for a century or so was better than what could happen to them.
Right. All right, guys, let's take a break and we'll come back.
All right.
Are you ready for an enchanting journey of self-discovery and empowerment? Dive into the mystical world of Wicca with our courses guided by Lord Aeson Knight. Unveil Wicca's secrets, explore fundamental principles, and delve into essential topics like deity relationships and the purpose of rituals. Aeson Knight, a third-degree high priest, shares his wisdom through life coaching lessons, guiding you towards a brighter future. Step into the inner circle of enlightenment. Enroll today to embark on a journey toward a more empowered you. Click the link to take your first step into the magical circle.
Ready to join the Psychic Coffee Shop Network? By becoming our patron, you'll unlock exclusive content from Aeson Knight, host of the Psychic Coffee Shop podcast and co-host of the Mountain Bears podcast, alongside the tech-savvy Techie Joe. Choose from subscription options ranging from Tall $1, Grande $5, to Venti $10 per month, supporting us in covering production costs and beyond. Depending on your subscription level, enjoy discounts on private readings, free access to classes and special events, behind-the-scenes extras, and the chance to participate in station meetings. Plus, you'll get early access to new content and the opportunity to shape future topics. We'll acknowledge your support in the credits of our videos. Don't wait. Brew some magic and join us today as a valued member. Link in the show description. Aeson Knight, your gateway to a transformed life. In a world where anyone can claim to be a life coach, Aeson stands out as a true professional with the skills and qualifications to guide you on your journey to success. So why invest in a personal life coach? Let's explore the game-changing benefits Aeson brings to the table. Ever find it hard to stay committed to change on your own? Aeson's expertise ensures you stay on track. With him as your coach, that internal drive kicks in, motivating you to keep your promises and achieve your goals. Making a change is tough, but Aeson makes it 1,000 times easier. He's your unwavering support, guiding you through challenges, pushing you beyond your limits, and believing in you even when you doubt yourself. Friends are great, but they may not always want to see you succeed. Aeson, on the other hand, is dedicated solely to your success. He removes negativity and limiting beliefs, giving you the tailored support you need. Forget endless hours deciphering advice from books and videos. Aeson is your shortcut to effective change. He saves you time and money by offering personalized attention, guiding you toward the tools and lessons that will truly work for you. Ready for a better tomorrow? Book your discovery call with Aeson Knight now. Take the first step toward the life you've always dreamed of. Aeson Knight, your partner in transformation. Start your journey today.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, so we were talking about, a century ago when countries began shipping, not stealing, shipping stuff to the British Museum.
Well, or out of as well.
Right. Yeah.
Because you got to remember, a century ago, we had just come out of World War One. We were, or about that 1 century mark, and headed into World War II. Now, during World War II, with England being one of the biggest targets, eventually, in World War II. A lot of things, the museums were trying to protect their collections.
Right.
So it doesn't surprise me a lot of things are showing up 100 years later,
Right.
because someone finally opened a box and went, what the hell is this? That's not what it says is supposed to be in here.
Right.
It happens, and it was intentional.
Yeah.
The idea that we were going to have honest catalogs during that period.
Ridiculous.
We were trying to, because we were trying to stash things and keep them
Right.
from being lost or destroyed or becoming part of the spoils of war. That if someone read the manifest or the catalog and was seeing like, oh, it's just a bunch of old doubloons, like, who the hell cares after a few million of those? Not that they're not pretty, not that they're not awesome, and all those things. It's just how many doubloons do you need?
Right.
At some point you got enough doubloons. Like you're done. you're done. But if you know you go to open that box and actually pick it up, you may quickly realize that's not what's in there.
Right. Well, and I remember watching one of the royal, they're not royal. It is technically royal because they live in a castle and stuff. The countesses going through and they were cleaning out their basement. And they were opening trunks that they didn't think were anything other than like old family photos or maybe old garments from the last century. No, they opened it up and it is like hordes of vases and jars and artwork and everything had been stashed underneath these old clothes. And it was, and with, you know, and then they were, within one of them was a note that this belongs to the British Museum. But the family had brought it home, stored it in their basement, in their in the basement of the manor, underneath garbage, in case Britain was invaded.
Yeah, and this it's a very significant period in time, and I think we're probably going to be another 100 years in covering it all.
Well, I think that we're even going to be longer in uncovering what occurred in Poland, Germany, France.
Yeah,
like
because
there's
this is going on
supposedly
all around the world.
Yeah, there's supposedly a cave in Germany somewhere
that's
filled with artwork and gold that they haven't discovered yet.
Yeah. So, and here's the rationale behind this, because it all sounds kind of crazy that we started taking, you know, priceless works of art and antiques and, you know, all these things and just throwing them in basements. Right. And hiding them under garbage. And, you know, it's taken us, you know, 75, 100 years to find some of it. Not all of it, just some of it. And the realization is that, you know, the theory that went behind it was better for it to survive into the future than to risk being destroyed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, even if it took a couple 100 years for someone to figure it out.
Right.
That was better than the idea that in one afternoon in an air raid, or one night in an air raid, it was all going to go up in smoke.
Right. Well, and you know, we see this behavior with the country. It is like when 9/11 happened. Immediately, the important documents of this country, the original copy of the Constitution, the one that's actually signed, and other paramount documents were secured, removed, stored, and took out of the cities.
Well, even something like the Greenbrier, for instance.
Right.
That was one of the best kept secrets, not only of West Virginia, but of the U.S. for decades.
One of the worst kept secrets.
Well, but in a sense, one of the best kept secrets. Fundamentally, yeah, some people figured it out and knew, but for the vast majority,
right,
wasn't known. That like hiding in West Virginia was where everyone was going to go in case of a nuclear fallout event. So what? What do you mean? Like West Virginia, they're evacuating here? Like our whole government.
Okay, it was revealed in 92. I knew this growing up.
Well, 92 would have been when we were growing up.
Okay. Like, even before that, like it was common knowledge in my household, at least. Yeah, the Greenbrier is a bunker.
I mean, I'm sure it was mostly it was revealed in 92 because the secret had gotten out.
Yeah.
But for many years before that, because that was built, what, in the, Jesus Christ.
Right.
Like, that was built decades. 70s. Was it the 70s? It way predates that.
It was during the Cold War.
Well, yeah, but that started a ways back.
I don't really care about the Gold Dome.
Yeah, it was 1962, instructed the Greenbrier to build our West Virginia wing to conceal the construction of an emergency Cold War fallout shelter and relocation facility for Congress, which fundamentally remained a well-kept secret until we moved out of the Cold War era.
Right.
But yeah, it was a supersized bunker, was built for all 535 members of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jesus Christ, that's
right.
Yeah, so 25-ton blast door that opens with only 50 pounds of pressure, a decontamination chamber, 18 dormitories designed to accommodate more than 1,100 people, a power plant with purification equipment, and 3 25,000-gallon water tanks, 3 14,000-gallon diesel fuel tanks, a communication area including television production area and audio recording booths, and a clinic with 12 hospital beds, medical and dental operating rooms, laboratory, pharmacy, and intensive care unit, a cafeteria with meeting rooms for the House and Senate, the Governor's Hall, and Mountaineer Room.
Right.
Yeah. And that was active. That was an active facility for 30 years.
Right.
So yeah, and then 1992, the Washington Post published an article, "The Last Resort," which exposed the facility. In 1995, the U.S. government ended the lease agreement with the Greenbrier, and later that year, the resort began offering tours of the historic facility.
Right.
I mean, that's a hell of a thing, though.
Right.
Like that was no small feat. Like like in the middle of the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you built this,
Mm-hmm.
disguised it,
right,
and only a handful really of people knew about it for the better part of 3 decades until it started to leak out. And even then, at the point in which it was leaking out, it didn't matter anymore.
Right.
Like, so Shannon, going backwards a little bit, if they stole it from somewhere else to put it on display, is it really theft if someone takes it from them? That's my point. Like, it just seems so weird. Like, you wanted honor among thieves. Okay, cool.
Right. I find it interesting.
I'm just saying that's what most museum curators are.
Right.
Part of the theft ring.
Very much so. I find it really coincidental. In 1995 is when the lease ended.
Mm-hmm.
And the Boy Scouts of America camp was built in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
Well, opened.
I don't know. Like, I'm sure there are secrets tucked away all over the U.S., and I highly doubt that West Virginia isn't one of them. Like, there's just too much land and caves.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, there's just too much land and caves, and retired mines and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that we're not sitting on top of other secrets, I mean, I think you'd have to be kind of dumb to believe there's not more.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it may have very well been that, like, let one out because you've replaced it.
Oh, very much so.
Let another one out because you replaced it. Because it was an aging facility, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1962 to 92.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. That's a lot of change in the world. I'm sure the idea in 92 that they were still going to be able to use the facility
right.
was waning.
Yes.
Like what kind of television production are you doing with equipment from the 60s?
Mm,
Like the amount of money it would have taken to retrofit, you could build a whole other one.
and they probably did. All right, so let's find out if you're an asshole.
All righty. Interesting segue there.
Yeah, I know.
Ugh. Alrighty. Am I the asshole dealing with neighbors who don't see eye to eye? I live in a somewhat rural residential neighborhood and am having a lot of issues with some neighbors who seem to be pretty upset that we exist. They have 3 dogs, at least that we know of. There were 3 others that pop up constantly at our house and run around the neighborhood wild, and have many times ran across our road and almost been hit on accident. The first few times we contacted the owner and told them, but they keep responding with don't feed them and throw rocks at them. She also said fireworks while yelling go home, and that she was too busy to pick them up. I refuse to throw rocks at the dog, but I keep yelling and gesturing them to go home. Of course they don't listen. My dad threw a pebble at it and it didn't change the results. The dogs roam the street near daily now, whereas this was a one a month situation, and we have tried to be civil repeatedly with these people. Now they have a cow. Livestock are against this neighborhood's CC&R unless approved by the neighborhood, and now the dogs and cow wander the neighborhood. Some other neighbors called animal control to have the cow picked up because it was eating gardens and crapping all over the place. The person responded by threatening to find out who made the report to sue them. They're under the assumption that because they are the locals born here, they have a right to let their animals wander the land, despite the land they used to let them wander is now fully residential. My main issue with all of this is I'm scared the dogs are going to get hurt or killed by a car or mountain lion. Incredibly, with all of this, we are getting people on the community chat who are calling us the assholes because we didn't catch the cow. None of us have halters or rope on hand and no familiarity with the cow's aggression level, and called animal control and complaining about how this area is going to crap because of outsiders like us ruining everything and calling us Karens. We've tried to do everything possible short of shelling out thousands of dollars to install and enclose acres of land because we can't afford this right now. We are just sick of our own dogs and people visiting getting barked and yelled at by these dogs. We are afraid to take our own for a walk on our own property because she isn't a social girl. Please help.
Nobody gonna like this.
Okay.
Not the asshole.
Who's not going to like that? That was my thought. He's not the asshole. You bought property. I understand once upon a time, long ago, this was rural countryside America, that no one cared that you had free roaming dogs and a cow that just randomly walks, through property.
Right.
But that's not where any of you live anymore.
Right.
This is a developing area that you're now bordering farmland or semi-rural farmland. And there is, unfortunately for the locals,
right,
an impetus to control your animals and keep them out of residential areas.
Right.
Like, you don't own that land. This is not how you like build a fence, build a really good fence, build better neighbors.
Right.
Like, keep your town alive. You want people to move in.
Right.
Brenda says, I say let the cow wander until butchering season. Also a theory.
The other one here is keep calling animal control. Call your city, call your county. There are regulations against this. and they should be enforced.
Well, and if there are not, there need to be. Like this,
Right.
this needs to, because what's fundamentally happened is this is land originally used like agriculturally or for livestock,
Mm-hmm.
and it's turned residential. And I understand people who grew up in a place watching this happen
Right.
don't necessarily take kindly to the change.
Right.
But newsflash, the change occurred. Your time to protest is over. Now what happens is those who have moved in really do have to take it upon themselves to ensure that their county, their city, their town, whatever municipality you're in,
Right.
has also managed to keep up with the change and
Right.
what it needs to mean.
Right. And there should be a clear, evident law there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know anywhere you can let a dog run free on other people's property. I know dang sure you can't let a cow run free on other people's property.
Yeah. Well, and it's one thing when this happens in an entirely agricultural area. You know, well, Bessie got out again. She made it all the way down to, Mr. Jones's farm. That's one thing. That's one path of destruction that's not that bad.
Right.
Turning Betsy loose in a in a subdivision, not the same thing. Oh, mention butchering season, and Anna hightailed it out of there. Yes, she did. Someone has been threatening kitty wontons.
110, 110. I'm sure you're off to play.
Yeah.
All right, so the poll is up. Your options are: yes, you're an asshole. No, you're not an asshole. Everyone's shitty here, and damn, you're a dill pickle.
Yes. All right, so moving over to relationship advice. My wife, female 38, wants me to give her, my male 43, entire paycheck. My wife is demanding I hand over my paycheck to her every week, and I'm not comfortable doing it, so we're fighting a lot over this. My wife is not open about money at all. She's very protective of her money, but considers what I make ours. I'm cool with having a shared account she has full access to, and I'm fine with having separate finances if she wants that. But I am not comfortable giving her all my money with no transparency and getting an allowance. There's got to be some middle ground here. How do I have this conversation without getting her even more upset?
You don't.
Here's my thing. There was a time to have this conversation, and it was before you combined finances and or got married.
Right.
And at that point, when you didn't agree, you needed to go, well, this isn't going to work.
Right.
Unfortunately, that appears to have not have happened.
Right.
You rode the NRE straight into marriage, and now here you are.
Right.
And it's not going to work out.
Right.
Finances are a fundamental aspect of relationships, and while they don't have all the prettiness of like exotic trips and romantic gestures and all the things that go into relationships and courtship and all that, it is a foundational block.
No.
And if you can't reconcile this, which it sounds like you're not going to be able to because you're at very polar differences on this, if you can't find a middle ground where you can both calm down and both get what you want, this isn't going to work.
No, it isn't going to work. And, additional commentary I'll paste over to you. This is a 10-year marriage, and he went into a little bit more detail.
10 years to get here?
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay, so he says, we've been married for 10 years. Early on, we had a shared account we both had cards to, and we could both spend from. She was never comfortable spending from that account. I guess because I was the only one working, she would always call to ask if it was okay to spend. No matter how many times I told her she didn't have to ask, the money was ours, not mine. Once she started working 5 years ago, her dad told her she needed to set up her own account, keep hers separate from mine, and start putting assets aside in case we ever broke up. At the time, it felt like a slap in the face and still kind of does. Over time, I stopped putting my checks into that account because she didn't put anything there or use it, and it was mostly me paying the bills. Then COVID hit and messed everything up. One of us had to stay home with the kids, and because she had just started her career and it was important to her, we decided I should stay home. So now no one was putting money into that account, and the bank closed it due to inactivity. For about a year, she was the sole provider and hated it and made sure I knew. She's very protective of her money and does not like spending it on anything or anyone but herself and the kids. I eventually went back to work when school opened back up in person and got a stable income again. Her business started slowing down, then she got pregnant again and had to close for a year. So for the past year, I've been the only income and money and money has been tight. I guess she thinks we have more than we actually do, and I'm just hiding it from her because she hides money from me all the time. But we really don't with 3 kids and 1 income. Times are tough. My work shoes have holes in them, and that will have to wait until we have 2 incomes again. I can document everything we spend on. I do not hide money. I don't have enough right now to hide some, even if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, this has spiraled out of control at this point.
It has.
And it looks like well-intentioned dad of OP's wife, because I understand that. I totally get it. It's a long-standing, you know, intergenerational pass down, to always have money, to be able to leave. Because the idea that your child, that anyone gets financially stuck and incapable of leaving in a relationship is a frightening one.
Right.
It used to happen and still
Right.
does. Like, I shouldn't just say used to, it still does.
Right.
So the idea of setting aside some money that you can be like, okay, well, this isn't working out, I don't have to stay, is actually a very healthy thing, I think.
Yes, but if the house is on fire, all the money goes into the hose to put the fire out, and she's not doing that.
Right, and hasn't been. And that's kind of the what's the tipping point between having the comfortability that you can leave, which again I think is a very healthy thing. There's a very big difference between being in the position where you have no choice but to stay, and having an active, healthy choice of wanting to be in this relationship because you could leave tomorrow at any point.
Right.
Because all you have to do is walk out.
Right. The other part here that I think is problematic is he knows how much the bills are. I don't think she does. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really unhealthy financially, Brenda.
Right.
And again, not impossible that occurs. Like, finances got out of control for everyone.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're sitting back and still thinking this is like pre-Panini, money levels, like, you know how much the bills were then,
Right.
and how much everything was costing then,
Right.
and you start applying it to now,
Right.
that can get really dangerous.
Right. And I'm even more concerned with that statement of she shut her business down for a year because she got pregnant.
I'm a little concerned. What kind of business is this?
It slowed, so it had to be, you know, I don't know if it was an Etsy business, what business it was, but it slowed and she closed it for a year because she got pregnant. Last time I checked, human birth rate is 9 months. You normally find out in month 2. Give it 3 months after.
Yeah. Well, and it's not like I expect someone to like pop out a kid, throw them on their back, and like go back to picking cotton or whatever. Like I don't think one need be that austere about like childbirth and you know all that. But I also am challenged to by the concept employed here, which is that, you know, her constitution was just so delicate that she must be kept in, you know, repose for a year.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I don't get that. Okay.
Like, there's a balance in between like this Southern Belle ideology,
right,
and like, you know, kick you out of the hospital and back to work on Monday. What's your problem?
Well, welcome to corporate America, but
right. Like, there's an in between. There's an in between. Like, you know.
But let's discuss healthy financial behaviors.
Yeah.
Everyone gets an annual report. Normally, they get a monthly report in our household on what the bills are, what our projected income is, and where we're sitting at.
Right.
And then we look at a percentage of, okay, this is the bills, this is the group income. What percentage of that should everyone be cashing into? So naturally, with me being the higher earner, I pay more of the bills and the expenses than everyone else.
Well, and then there's also the fact that a portion of pretty much every day of what I do goes towards your business. Like, I'm, you know, it's a sole proprietorship, but there's, you know, services that your business gets from mine.
Right. Right. But that is still accounted in the bill portion into a thing.
Yeah.
You know, if I wasn't using your services,
right,
there would still be a financial amount for all three. It's not a exact 35%, like this 50-50 stuff doesn't work. It's not fair.
No.
Or 33.3 is not fair in this house.
Right.
Okay. What they need to do is look at her and go, what income can you create?
Well, and more to the point, I'm so a little frustrated by she shut down her business. Like, right. I mean, do I understand there could be businesses that it may not be safe to do while pregnant?
Coal mining.
Well, but I mean, there's probably many things that, like, you don't want to be exposed to hazardous chemicals. You know what I mean? Like, right. I understand there could have been a business she was running that may not have been safe for pregnancy and while breastfeeding. Right. So, which would be about a year and probably a little change even with the 2 months.
Right. But
I could follow that.
Let's say she's running a cleaning business.
Yeah, no heavy lifting, don't want to run a cleaning business. You probably don't want to be, you know, working around like solvents and like, right. You know what I mean? Like, watch what you're doing.
That's not the point. That you pivot. You don't shut it down, you pivot. And go, okay, I can't do the work, but I've got the contacts.
Yeah. Like,
Right.
now's the time to hire. Now's the time to like figure out different ways to what you can still do while pregnant,
Right.
and just kind of shift your business for a little bit with the understanding, like, after the child's, weaned and,
Mhm.
you know, we're good to go. To completely shut down them.
Right.
Like,
And if she couldn't afford help, there's many different ways to afford help.
mhm.
There
Well, it
is
very much sounds like she gave up. Either she wasn't loving the business, like,
right.
like she did it and was doing it, and
Mhm.
like the pregnancy was like, oh, thank God I'm pregnant and I don't have to do this shit anymore.
Right. You know,
Um,
which that would be my point of view. Is okay. So how long into the year is she going on? How long is it going to be? What is the plan?
I see. I think this is part of the issue, though,
Right.
is that should have been a conversation before she closed the
Right.
business. Like, at this point, it's water under the bridge. There's
Right.
no going backwards. Like, the business is closed,
Right.
door slammed.
Right.
He's back to being the sole income earner.
Mhm.
She is furious at the idea that he's not handing over his check and just getting an allowance.
Right.
Which I'm sitting here going, oh, try that with me.
I'm sitting here going, in God's green earth, that ain't ever gonna happen.
Because it generally doesn't work for most people.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying that's a level of trust, which it is.
Right.
But it's also one of those, do you want to what?
Right.
Like, go back to like, a reasonable conversation is, can we go reopen a joint checking account?
Mm-hmm.
You put in enough money to fund the bills and I'll handle them.
Right.
And the expenses.
Right.
And then have a legit conversation about, okay, so where are you, female 38?
Mm-hmm.
With your finances.
Right.
And I don't expect a full disclosure of, I have $152,000
Right.
in the bank or whatever,
Right.
or $500, whatever. Like, set aside the amount you feel comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
That if all this went to shit tomorrow and he beat you up one side and down the other,
Right.
and you were like, I'm done, I got to get out of here.
Right.
Set that amount aside.
Right.
That lives there comfortably for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever's left.
Right. Well, it's like when I came off the road. Now, this was one part of my business.
Mm-hmm.
One part. We had a massive discussion about, okay, what are we filling that in with?
Yeah.
Where are we going to be doing this at? And how are we going to handle this?
Mm-hmm. Like, we had to, like, go through, and granted, that first couple of months was a lot of, like, okay, what are we doing temporarily? What are we doing permanently? Like, how long do we think this is going to last? What's this going to look like? What's this year going to look like?
Right.
And then what's that going to do for future years?
Right.
And it was a lot of opportunity to realize that some of the things that you were doing were already failing to serve you.
Right.
And so it was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like sometimes you hit a brick wall and it's a good thing.
Right. But there was a whole large discussion about this. Every time I make a business pivot, which I'm making plenty of pivots, there's a discussion that goes on between the three of us. There's a discussion about me taking days off and how that grossly affects the net value of the climate. If I take out business loans, there's a discussion that goes on about how that affects the climate. Brenda, we will flip that up to make this fit the situation. Either him and or Invisible looked and said, we're going to now handle the accounting, because we tried that. I will laugh at them. and go, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone's got a turn at it. And so far, nobody can keep up with the madness.
It is a lot of madness, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of moving parts. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah. But no, and granted that's 3 people versus 2 people and children. Which, I mean, there's this classic idea, this is how this is supposed to work,
Right.
is that one spouse in a 2-person relationship,
Right.
generally speaking,
Right.
should be like the breadwinner, account handler, like
Mm-hmm.
money provider, do it all.
Right.
It's never worked.
Right.
One, it's rife with the ability to be abusive in a relationship.
Right.
Like the sole person who can cut you off,
Right.
who has full financial control. You don't have a healthy relationship if that's the
Right.
case. I fully advocate people to have their
Right.
own money.
Right.
Like I am. I've seen it fix problems in relationships. I've rarely
Right.
seen it cause problems in relationships that weren't already doomed.
Ooh. Let's go.
What?
Well, how how I have you as a follow, so I can sometimes find articles you're interested in.
Okay.
3 minutes ago. I am not going to argue with you on an open forum. I was literally asking for advice on how to avoid this. But since you chose to throw dirt here, have it your way. When I bought a PS5, I asked you over and over again if it was okay, and you said yes, both before and after I bought it. We had plenty left over for what you felt we needed. I paid off most of the car and paid some other bills. Then we agreed on and beforehand, even after there was plenty left over. You spent $2,600 on 3 trips to Walmart's. Add that up, and the tax money is gone. And when it is gone, it was the 600 I spent on something for myself and our son that you had a problem with, right? I don't spend shit on myself because you always get mad, but you're conveniently forgetting all the money you spend.
Ooh, so OP went on a spending spree
Mm-hmm.
and then didn't understand why maybe OP's wife might show up and be like, hand over your paycheck so I can fix this.
Oh, no. No, no, no. The opposite. The
What?
opposite. The opposite. OP they got a tax check in.
Right.
OP bought a PlayStation 5 for him and the son.
Okay.
Wife of OP spent $2,600 on 3 trips to Walmart.
Huh. Oh, oh, oh. I'm trying to reserve judgment there.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes things happen.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying it's legitimate purchases. I'm just saying it could be. Like, maybe you replace the beds. Like, that would knock a few hundred out pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe bought a new dining table and a new
Right.
TV stand and replaced the TV and I
Right.
had some maintenance work done on a vehicle. They have an
Right.
auto center, maybe new tires.
Right.
Like the mom minivan could have needed some things.
Right.
Like, I don't want to necessarily think it was all like she hit the cosmetics aisle in 3 trips and it was a disaster.
Right.
Like, there could be legitimate spending going on there.
Right.
Like, tires are expensive, vehicles need repairs.
Right.
Got to replace beds.
Yeah.
The little ones get bigger. You have to move them from a crib to a bed.
Right.
That's legitimate spending.
Right.
So he discussed, Brenda says, he discussed before he spent $600, but she didn't discuss $2,600.
Right. In 3 trips. I'm trying to phantom that in Walmart. Granted, I shop differently in Walmart. When I go to Walmart, I have coupons, I have a list, I know my spending amount there. If we're tight or if we're blowing money.
Well, but like, well, okay, I'm trying to legitimize it.
Right.
And I'm going, okay, so we've done just grocery trips that are $300 and some, and that's for 3 people.
Right.
Without children, just all adults,
Right.
food, 3 people. We've blown $300 without batting an eyelash.
Right.
Just gone.
Right.
So let's assume one of them was a grocery trip and a pantry stock. I could see it as 500 gone.
Right.
So now we're down to 2,100. 4 tires and maybe 1 mechanical issue could easily be another 900.
Right.
So we're now down to $1,200 unadjusted or uncounted. I mean, bought a laptop. I'm just trying to go like that. That could be legit. She may be getting ready to go back to work again. Might need a new computer.
Right.
I'm trying here. I'm trying to help OP's wife just to like legitimize how $2,600 got spent and it's not irresponsible.
Right.
Like, it sounds like a lot of money, but a few items could have sucked it up in a heartbeat.
Right.
But they're all legit.
Right.
Like, you got to keep the car on the road. You got to feed y'all. The business expense might be the questionable one.
Right.
Might have wanted to discuss that first before you went and spent that.
Right.
But again, like, if she's a graphic designer, don't know why that shut down your business during pregnancy, but if she's a graphics designer, might have had to buy a real nice computer.
Yeah. Possibly. $2,600 for a Walmart computer, though. Come on, honey.
Not $2,600. I said $1,200.
Right.
Like $900 in repairs plus a $1,200 computer. Plus 3, like $500 in groceries. I think I said something like that.
Right.
Like, I could see it being one of those moments where, like, you spent it. It was a household expense. You didn't really think about it. Okay, it was a business expense. Didn't really think about it. Like, you had discussed it, but you didn't specifically discuss what you were spending and, like, when. Out of what?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, we get $5,000 in. Hi, I'm taking the car and I'm doing some things.
No. No.
What?
Give other things their priorities.
I know. Well, okay, so Shannon's pointing out if they needed baby stuff, that's going to be a few hundred in clothes and diapers and a bit of formula, not counting furniture. And that's where I was. I was trying to legitimize it and go, like, how could I conceivably, like, okay, let me put me in, like, a mom shoe position. We just got our tax refund. I'm sure that given how tight everything's been, I've probably been bitching about some things.
Right.
You know, because and like kids go through shit,
Right.
groceries deplete,
Right.
you know, stock up while you can. And if my vehicle has a crap ton of issues I've been bitching about,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying I could see myself taking off to Walmart going, huh, we're fixing the car.
Right.
Like, you ain't leaving me on the side of the road with fucking babies.
Right.
Like, don't care what you want, don't care what you need.
Yep. And I get that. But what I'm saying, however, people, is
like, I'm just saying, if
right.
we got $5,000 magically dropped from the sky, your exhaust system's getting fixed. That's our last remainer.
No, if we get $5,000, we're replacing the car. Point blank.
Well, okay, that's fair. Two sides of a discussion there. But yeah, Shannon's pointing out a crib, a rocker, and changing table can run $1,000 easily.
Right.
Again, I mean, it may have been an overzealous jump.
Right.
Like, I'm trying to work that out. Like, how would it be reasonable?
Right.
But if you weren't paying attention and you weren't listening,
right,
and the conversation were a little light, like, when we get our tax refund, by God, I'm fixing this stupid fucking car.
Right.
And blah, 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 naggy wife. Didn't hear it, and then you got your tax refund and your fucking car.
Right.
Again, probably not knowing what was wrong with it or how much it would cost, took it in and said, fix it.
Right.
Just fix it. I don't have options.
Right.
Can't trade it, can't sell it. We're still making payments on it. Get me back on the road. Reliably, safely. Right. I don't want to get trapped and stranded with babies.
Right.
Shannon says we need stuff for the baby is considered a whole conversation if the guy is like, all right, and asks no questions. Just saying.
I know.
Okay, so Brenda's like, yeah, if you got $5,000, there'd be a discussion. There would be. I would probably strongly advocate for let's go ahead and like fix the car while you're going to be sitting here going, let's replace the car.
Right.
And I could be persuaded. But if it were like, I'm trying to think, because like we've taken care of some stuff recently. And like you putting 4 new tires on the car was just like, I'm gonna go put 4 new tires on the car, and I'm like, okay.
Right.
But like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a discussion. It was like, yes, please.
Right. But I have a scale on a car. A car has a value. When it reaches its value, and we begin spending more than its value, now let's replace the car.
Yeah. Well, which is a valuable point. I still struggle to be like, but we could spend a little more money on it and get a little more out of it.
And I'm like, no, this is a problem. Right.
I don't know. I keep pushing hard for us to get back to 2-car household. Right. So I keep having that moment like, but if it becomes your vehicle.
No. We go and we buy me a $1,500 vehicle for me.
And then down payment the rest.
Down payment the rest.
Down payments another vehicle.
Exactly.
Okay, with a trade-in of the one that we have.
Right, because I don't need that vehicle.
That's true. You didn't want it to begin with.
No.
Like, let's be honest, you didn't want it.
I don't like it. I don't care for it.
Yeah.
It's too big. It's too bulky. It's got too much ability for me to go hog wild in.
I'm glad he's admitting these things on air. Please tell me we're recording for posterity.
Because if we have two vehicles, which means I can go do what I want in my vehicle, there is a 3.5 mile trail that I think needs to be explored.
Well, there you go.
Right.
Yeah, Brenda says, and God's help us if he finds a spider in that price range, ticked off soon to be ex-wife. Oh. Yeah. Joe is like future receipts.
Yes.
Like, because there's going to come a point we're going to have a conversation. He's like, I never said. Oh, the fuck you did.
No.
Yes.
You guys don't understand. Spider eclipses cannot go off-roading. They cannot go up into the backwoods of West Virginia and get lost.
Right.
They have to stay on paved roads or roads that do not have a lot of potholes. They have a 6-inch clearance. That car I can run over a curb in. Imagine what I can do in mud holes. It's got 4-wheel drive.
Yes.
And you've already had one conversation with one person about, let me see you pull the winch off the sucker.
Oh, yeah. That was a whole conversation with my dad years ago.
Exactly.
Oh. But no, like, that's whole vehicle discussion.
Right.
I think it's getting into the weeds here. I'm just wondering if there is a legitimate version of, like, they've hit that marital point where she talked about it.
Right.
But like, he wasn't listening.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was a conversation, but to be a conversation, technically both parties have to be involved. Yeah. And in this instance, one of them was not.
Right.
And all they heard at the time was, you want to spend money. Why do you want to spend money? We don't have money to spend. Why do you want to spend money?
Right.
That's cute pie in the eye thinking there, honey. We don't have money to spend, not tying it to when this income tax refund comes in. You've pre-allocated it. I'm going here to do this. I'm going here to do this. And I'm going here to do this. And oh, look, they're all Walmart.
Right.
Like, I've hit, automotive at Walmart. I have gone to this portion of Walmart, and I've gone to this portion of Walmart.
Right.
I have made trips, plural.
Right.
Oh, Brenda says Max can drive over lots of things. Correction, Max has driven over lots of things.
Right.
On purpose.
Right.
No, see, I'm just trying to get to my minivan life.
Right.
I've wanted a minivan for so many years, and I know that makes me weird. No one should intentionally buy a minivan without, like, a buttload of children to go in it. It is a general life theory.
Right.
I've always wanted one. Like, it is the most intelligent vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
It makes perfect sense to me.
No.
Shannon says, I don't want a minivan to put kids in. I want a minivan I can turn into a tiny house.
Uh-huh. All right, guys, it's been great talking. Let's go look at the poll.
Yes. Where are we?
We are at, no, you are not an asshole.
Hooray! Oh, Brenda, I love it. She says, you have techie stuff to haul around, plus 2 people, and one has a whole wardrobe. Yes.
Yes, I have multiple wardrobe changes.
Shannon points out, my family would be like, if you're not careful, you're going to end up in a van by the river. And my mom was like, do not let her know that is an option.
Exactly.
I understand.
All right, guys. So with that, we do want to take a moment to thank our baristas.
Yes, we absolutely do. So, of course, we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Tracy Van, Caitlin Bell, and Devin. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcspnetwork.com.
Yes. And I'll see you guys Thursday night. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.